Good afternoon, ladies. I'm Tina Liu from Science second year in Japan Studies. Today I would like to talk about the growing crisis in US-Japan higher education exchanges. First, let me ask you a question. Which group of students do you think consume the largest proportion for international students here in the United States?
China,
Oh,
India, Korea.
I think some of you already mentioned the right answer. So for now, the correct answer is China. But let me ask you, Professor Tanya, like in 10 years ago, you have been teaching English for a long time. So can you recall, like 10 years ago, which country students do you have most?
Japan.
Yeah, I think that's the case. So for 10 years ago, Japanese students account for the largest group of international students here in the United States. But Chinese students hold that position now. And there is a declining trend of Japanese students here, especially in the United States. So we would like to ask what's going on and why. So today I will first help to analyze the current trends and characteristics of the international students here, especially Japanese students here in the US. And then I will try to explore some reasons collaboratively and simultaneously magnifying this current trend. After this, I will do an evaluation about the current policy carried out by the Japanese government as well as Japanese private sectors. At last, I will conclude with some my policy recommendations. So first, let's look at this chart. You can see the drop of Japanese students here in the US is remarkable. This right line represents the number of Japanese students enrolled in American universities. And so you can see from 1997 to 2000, it's the peak time. But after that, it kept declining. It's almost like a 58% of decline. And currently, Japan counts for the seventh large origin of international students here in the US. The first one is definitely China here, and Japan is here. Well, this is South Korea, this is India, this is Saudi Arabia countries students. And for your information, most of Japanese students here pursue undergraduate level studies. And there is a trend like more and more Japanese students come to US for short-term programs instead of degree programs, which their purpose is just to improve their English language ability instead of really obtain a certificate. So what's the reasons for this very sharp declining? I would say many reasons collaboratively contributed to this declining. First, if you look at the demographic issues in Japan, the low birth weight has caused a shrinking population in Japan. So if you look at the young people in Japan, it is actually shrinking. Well, at the same time, the graduate school or college school entrance remains flat. Entrance rate remains flat. So that means the expansion of higher education in Japan itself already provides sufficient opportunities for Japanese students to go to Japanese university in Japan. Instead, so that means there's not so many incentives for them to go outside or to go study abroad. And another thing is the education system itself in Japan is not as internationalized as other universities in other countries. Two things can just show this. First is if you look at the courses provided by English or taught by English in Japanese universities, it's a really small amount of such classes. And another thing is Japan is the only country which adopted this spring admission season. Very different from all the other universities in Western countries. And another thing is if you look at the international faculty percentage in Japanese university, the overall rate is only about 5%. But if you look at Harvard, Yale, or university like Cambridge, the average number is about 30%. Besides the education system, another thing is the recruitment system in Japan. Usually in Japan, overseas experience is not properly valued or it's not treated as a value added. On the contrast, some Japanese boss they prefer the students graduate from locally graduate because they can tolerate the longer working hours, they don't ask much questions, they don't challenge their superior authorities. While some people with overseas experience, they will keep asking questions and they cannot just follow the rules which may not make sense to them. Those big Japanese companies, they prefer to go to the university to pursue the talent, to recruit the talent when they are still in school, which means the second year or third year in college means a lot for those students who wants to find a job right after graduation. So if you take this time to go study abroad, you probably will miss these opportunities. And another thing I would like to mention is the financial situation. If you look at the tuition in the US, in the past 10 years, it has been increasing steadily, while at the meantime, the Japanese household income remains flat or it's a little bit declining. So now it's really less affordable for Japanese students to go study abroad, especially in the US. Another point is the competitiveness of Japanese student itself. Maybe 10 years ago, when a Japanese student they applied for university here in the US, they don't have other competitors from Asian countries. But for now, the situation is totally different. The Indian student they get the advantage of English, of language, and South Korea students after their higher education reform, their university system actually can help prepare those students to suit or to fit in the US higher education system better. If you can use the English test score as an indicator, like we can see from this chart, this is the TOEFL test score of several different countries in Asia. This green line is South Korea, China, and Japan. You can see Japanese students rank lowest among these three countries, but also Japanese students' test score ranks the lowest among Asian countries. So, besides the competitiveness, if you just blame the Japanese students being lazy couch potatoes and without going to US universities, that's totally wrong, because for now they have so many other choices they can go. That's what I mean, the shift of destination. Because if you look at this chart, like even though the student study in the United States is declining, while there are more and more students now choose to go to China because the economic development in China. So what's the Japanese government and the companies are doing now? The government, they also provide some support to internationalize their universities in Japan. They have this 30,000 international students project, which means by 2020 they want to bring in international students around 30,000 international students in Japan. And also they have this Global 30 project, which they choose 13 universities and ask them to adopt their admission seasons to more Western style and also provide more English classes. Besides this, private sectors, the Keidaran is the business association in Japan, which means it's like the leader of the business. So they recently they just set up this scholarship for global-minded human resources, which encourage the newly employees in companies to take some short-term exchange overseas and to broaden their horizon. Also, every year here in the United States, they have this Boston Career Forum, which is for Japanese English bilingual students to find a better job, to provide more opportunities for them. But overall, if you look at those policies, it seems like the case that for Japanese government, their effort to internationalize their university is just to bring in more international students. However, those international students, after graduation, they have really limited access to the labor market in Japan. So a lot of them have to go back to their country without finding a job in Japan. So the overall effect of this supportive project seems to be really limited and not very effective to Japanese society itself. So at last, I would like to see what can we do to solve these problems. For Japan, of course, it should keep the internationalization of universities, but probably they can start to send out more Japanese students to the other places in the world. And the private sector's good practice should be continuing encouraged. Well, for U.S., I would like to say U.S. can enhance the flexibility of its visa, because currently the F1 student visa won't allow students to work off campus until at their first year here. But if you look at a lot of other countries like Australia, New Zealand, or Canada, they all provide a kind of working holiday visa, which allows the student to combine their study with their work. So they can do internships while studying. This is definitely more attractive to a lot of foreign students because they do not only want academic experience here, but also internship or working experience will help them more in finding a future job. So at the end, I would like to say younger generation means a lot for every country. So that in essence, education is the most thing each government should invest. Especially for US and Japan, such allies with each other. If people don't realize the seriousness of this issue, probably this is going to harm the two countries' future relations. So thank you for your attention. I would like to take your questions now.